Okay. Well, Anatoly, thank you for joining us at CIMFest again. You were here last year. We had Joe Cassavell up as a solopreneur last time. We've got another one of Georgia's successful solopreneur game devs and one of our most successful mobile game developers. And he's going to speak today on an area that he's done very well with, expanding his player base in unique ways. So, Anatoly, can you tell us what you're talking about today here?
Yeah, I will talk about the 6 keys how to improve your game, so it will be it can become playable for players with low vision, with players with the vision loss, or even blind players. And I will show how implementing these keys can not only expand your audience to these players, but overall will improve your game in many aspects.
That's excellent. And you do mobile, so we don't usually think of the visually impaired using folks who have visual impairments playing mobile, but you're finding that working. Do you hear from them? Do they tell you how well it works for them?
Yes, since low vision players, they are most vocal because and they have the most feedback. From my experience for my game, since introducing of iPhone 3, Apple introduced voiceover, which is like a helper voice which narrates everything you do on your iPhone. You just need to enable it, and people who with low vision, they enable it, and it just guides them how to do things, how to do selfies, how to share on social network. It's built in, and when you do games, you can use the API to implement this feature, so your game can become playable by low vision players. And these players, at the when I started development, I followed just Apple guidelines, and suddenly I started to get feedback from low vision players, even blind players. They told me that while my game was already playable, I need to improve here and there, so for them it will be easier to play. And I started to implement their suggestions, and I noticed that implementing that, my game gained audience not just among these players, but overall, because it generally improves your game, and it opens it to, it becomes easier to play overall, and not just to these players. But I get a lot of feedback for them.
Yeah, certainly one of the secrets is to let players play the way they want to play, and you give them a lot more options.
And they taught me how actually these players play, like how they explore the screen, how they move objects, because they typically, while for example drag and drop is available with voiceover mode on iPhones and talkback on Android phones, still low vision players, it's very hard for them to do drag and drop. So there is another mechanics which you need to implement so that it will become easier to play for them, not instead of drag and drop, but in addition to drag and drop. So and they taught me how actually they play, because it's a little bit different than your normal audience.
So we just had Joe Cassavell talking about being a solopreneur, and you're one of the very successful solopreneur game developers in Georgia. You've got your own studio. You are the sole employee therein, and you do the vast majority of the work on your games, right?
Yeah, I'm a solo entrepreneur, and I work with graphic designers. I hire graphic designers. I do graphic designer, like I outsource some of graphic designer work. But I do all the programming and management. Now I also lately I also use AI in development as mostly as like assistant force. It's like I actually feel that I have an assistant that helps me.
Excellent. So it's not doing the final work, but it's
yeah, it's like easier to do prototyping, to help with some code samples and so on. Like for example, instead of going to Stack Overflow and search for some code samples how to do some things, it can just show me like a sample, and I need just to implement it. And of course, it is not like ready, like production ready, but you need to do work, additional work. But it's very good for prototyping. You have some idea, you want to see how it looks like, to do some starting, to get you starting, do something. Or, for example, it's also good for porting code, like for one platform to another.
So a solopreneur with a virtual assistant.
Yeah, I use it. I don't know about other entrepreneurs, but I don't know to what extent, but I feel like I have another person on my team. With,
so what do you find the hardest thing about being a solopreneur, about doing this all on your own?
The hardest thing maybe you need to have discipline. You need to, like Joe said many times, you need to have endurance. It's a marathon. You have to go long to know how to go long distances, and to build things, not to give up, to try to build a franchise instead of doing. I agree with all those points. Yeah, it's the main part.
All right, so tell us where we can find X2Line products.
X2Line products you can find mostly on Apple Store and the Google Play Store. You just search X2Line.
That's letter X, number 2,
yes.
L-I-N-E.
X2 and L-I-N-E. There's also a website with titles. And also on Apple Store and Google Play Store you can search. I have a franchise called Baby Adopter, which consists of 5 games, some of them with more than 1 million of downloads on each of the platforms. My games are also playable on some gaming websites like Crazy Games and Game Distribution, and on Facebook, Canvas. And you can search either X2Line or Baby Adopter, and it will show you my games.
Yeah, and it's very funny that you talk about games for the visually impaired. Of course, my daughter, when she was preschool, kindergarten, etc., yours were her favorite games, and it's hard for me to think of that being the audience for your games. But of course, you've got a very broad audience for these titles.
Yeah, I have a broad audience, but it's like I think overall. Working for this audience and including this audience to make the game playable, it overall improved my game and made my audience wider, not among other players, and including children.
That's great. Thank you very much, Anatoly. X2Line. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.